Elliott, we trailed by one today against Brackley. How do you see today's game?
I thought we played well with the ball. I thought some of our football, especially first half, was good. Created some chances, especially in the first half. Not so much in the second. Obviously once they scored, I mean the goal we've conceded is a really poor goal. We work hard all week and plan and prepare, and the players know what the game plan was. We knew what their strengths were. They like to play the ball forward, set players. It's similar to most games, if I'm honest, where teams are very very direct in a way, and set players are a big part of the division, and from a throw in, then a little bit of a second phase, the cross comes in where we've got to stop the cross, and then we've got to deal with the header in the box, and then we've got to stay with the runner. So the goal is disappointing, and it's just maybe it's an acceptance to concede, and we've got to be different with that, and we've got to be more resilient in those moments. And it's not just today; it's probably happened far too many times. But in terms of football, I thought we played some really good stuff. I thought we moved the ball around. I thought we were dominated the ball. But at times I know we maybe didn't go anywhere. But it's hard once, like I say, they've scored the goal, and we've got to try to beat that block. And we found it difficult second half. But there's one or two moments in the second half that we've got to take, and we've got to punish them. And when you have those moments, you've got to take it, and we didn't take those moments. So like I say, the goal against isn't great, and the moments that we had created, it's one of them's got to we've got to score at least one of the chances that we did create out of the handful that we did.
And like you said yourself, we had a lot of good spells of possession, but just couldn't find that final pass. What do you think was missing in the final third?
A number of things. I think it's easy I think it's easy when you lose a game to be overcritical. And don't get us wrong, we have to be realistic with it. And I know that I like to come on here and I like to try to be as upbeat and as positive as I can about how we've performed. But at the same time, I need to be realistic with it. I thought we played well today, and I just think that we've lacked a little bit of care in the final third. I think the shape that we had was good and it caused problems. But when we, like I mentioned, those key moments, towards the end, I think there's a lovely diagonal pass in for Dylan. And he's trying to hit it first time, when I think if he takes a touch and hits it, which I think, a Dylan Stevenson from last season would have done that. I think, at the end of the day, Dylan made a decision to go elsewhere in the summer, and he hasn't played loads of football, so I think it's catching him up a little bit, and that's how the game works, and he'll learn from that. But those little moments like that, that's what I'm alluding to, and I think those key moments we've just sort of let ourselves down yet again. But it's not easy. Teams come here and they play like that. They defend in a low block. They work hard. They've got something to hang on for. It takes a little bit of magic sometimes for us to win a game, and like I say, we've had chances more than enough to certainly get something out of today.
And today's captain, Mackenzie Heeney, returned to the matchday squad. Are you happy to see him back?
Delighted, absolutely delighted. We've missed him. And what he's gone through, you wouldn't wish that upon anybody. I think we were all there at his brother's funeral earlier in the week, and to show the togetherness of the group who were there, the type of people that these lads are, to be there for one of their own, to be there for one of their teammates, is remarkable. And I think what he's gone through, like I say, it's not great. Him and his family, and we all support them. We've all been there for them. And Mackenzie's a strong character. He's a really, really strong character. He's been really impressive these last few weeks when I've been, when I met him, and obviously we've had conversations. But for him to be back in the team today, yeah, he's such a huge player for us because of his energy, his attitude, his desire. He's a real competitor. And yeah, the fact, it tells you everything that Briggsy's willing to give up the captaincy for today's game and give it to Mackenzie in honour of his brother, and I think that speaks volume of the group.
And finally, today saw 5 academy graduates feature in the squad, a positive for the club and the academy.
100%, definitely. Definitely. I think, I know we've lost the game, and I know it's a result-based business, but we've got 5 players who've come through our academy in the squad. Kyle's in goal, young James Sloan's first start with the first team, and I thought he did smashing. I thought he did terrific. It's not an easy game to come into. You know, they've got players higher up the pitch who can cause problems. And I thought him, Briggsy, Shep were terrific today. Ewan McGowan was excellent last week down at Rushall. And I think today, again, he was good. Different type of game for him. Asked to do a different job and a different role. So yeah, delighted for them. And like I say, you know, the academy lads within the squad's fantastic. I mean, obviously Jenks is part of the furniture. And you know, again, he's done great, and Brian Taylor on the bench. So from the academy's point of view, you know, I remembered when I joined, we stood up in front of parents of players who were joining the academy, and we said things like, you know, you will be given an opportunity. And I think the important thing is when they've been given an opportunity, they've got to take it. It's not easy to take it, and I think a handful have. I know the academy players in previous regimes, and that's how managers wanted to work. I'm not being critical of that. Didn't want the academy players anywhere near it, and I think ultimately we've embraced it. I really, really do, and I think, you know, it's testimony to everybody involved at the football club, who have worked, who've been here and moved on with these academy players, for them to come in and play at this level. It's not an easy situation and an easy thing to do, and I think you know, everybody who's been involved from our academy this season has done great, and it's something we should be proud of. Disappointed to lose the game. Everybody knows that. Our fans know that. We know that. But ultimately, you know, the performance was good. Academy players playing. Mackenzie Heeney's back. Tommy Allen's on his verge of coming back from his injury, so he'll be close to being in and around it next week. Dylan Morse is on the comeback. Dan Ward, who's, you know, managing an injury, is you know, managing to get more minutes. So there's lots of positives. The negative is that we haven't won a game, but the positives are, for me, they outweigh that. But I understand that, you know, to win games, you've got to win games to push up the table, and ultimately we've got 4 more games to try to do that.